Hello, welcome to the Analyst Inside Cricket with me, Simon Hughes. And today, a special guest who's been on this podcast before, Deep Dasgupta, the former Indian batsman and wicketkeeper and current commentator, because we want to talk about the IPL today. There's a pause in county cricket, an intermission before the next round of games. So we're going to just focus on the IPL. It's a third of the way through now, Deep. So
Yeah.
most teams have played 4 or 5 games out of the 14. I think it was the 24th match. Already, it's kind of created some quite interesting stories. What would you pick out so far? I mean, just a brief recap. Gujarat
Mm.
Titans on top of the table, 5 matches, 4 wins. But today, Delhi Capitals have gone level with them on 8 points, having won all their games and won a good match today. We'll talk about that, how they beat RCB. Bottom of the table, one of the teams I tipped, actually, Sunrisers, bottom of the table, with an unlikely second from bottom, Chennai Super Kings and Mumbai Indians. So the sort of big
Yeah.
stronghold teams down the bottom of the table, and one or two of the slightly less expected ones
Mm.
up at the top. Anyway, how do you look at it overall? You've done nearly 12 games
Yeah.
yourself. What are the things you've spotted?
Uh, I guess, first of all, it's again great to be back on the podcast. Simon, I think the way it all started, the first week was all about 230, 278 and stuff like that. And we were talking about, oh, this is the season when we're going to see 300 being scored in a T20 game. And then suddenly, the bowlers have made a comeback after that first week. And now we aren't getting as many 200 games. We're getting those ones. Tonight's a great example. We're talking about Chinnaswamy, where the average scores around that 170, 180, maybe at 190 as well. But then, we had a 163, interesting 163 game. So I guess, I guess that's bowlers as an ilk for you. You know, they've reacted really well uh, to how this whole tournament started.
I mean, is it to do with pitches as well? Because so often
Yeah.
you find that the pitches are so flat in India
Mm.
and the boundaries are small and the batsmen are powerful. And so, two, 200, 220, 230. I mean, there was a 286, I think, wasn't there this year in that first
Yes.
week, which Rajasthan wasn't. Poor old Jofra Archer was 76 of his 4 overs. But in fact, he's come back pretty
Yeah.
strongly. And have the pitches sort of help the bowlers a bit more, perhaps?
Mm, maybe, perhaps, but I also think the bowlers have learned quickly to go to their defensive side of their skills a little earlier. For example, today when I think they were what 53 after 3,
Yeah,
right?
Salt and Kohli were going well,
Yes.
weren't they?
Yeah, especially Phil Salt, I think he got about 37 of 17 or something like that. Yeah, and then suddenly you see the bowlers going into their defensive mode and bowling Yorkers, blowing slower deliveries and stuff like that. I think that's something that has changed with the bowlers. They're very quickly into that side of their bowling. That's one thing. Secondly, yes, obviously the pitches have been under a lot of spotlight in terms of home advantage and stuff like that. So maybe a little bit the pitch has changed, and that's how it happens. You've been part of IPL before as well. The first couple of weeks, always the pitches are batting friendly, and then slowly they start to get a little tired, and then the spinners come in, and things like that. So yeah, I wasn't very surprised, and also I guess as far as batting is concerned, the tempo has changed. It's gone up a notch, and especially with that impact substitute rule, which is in IPL, you literally are batting or playing with 8 batters. With 8 proper batters, it just gives you a little more license to, be a little more, I guess, attacking.
You don't need any more license to be attacking in T20, really, do you? I mean, it's there it is a batter's game. In
Yeah.
fact, I think Gujarat Titans, who are, as I said, are top of the table, Joss Butler featuring well there batting in at number 3, they seem to maybe, and I was listening to their player Sai Sudarshan talking
Mm,
a couple of days ago, saying that they're still got a sort of rather more old-fashioned approach,
mm,
which is
mm.
keeping wickets in hand rather than just going for broke madly in the first
Yeah.
6 overs and often kind of losing wickets.
Yeah.
They almost kind of gone a little bit back to the future
Mm,
and sort of started to keep wickets intact for that
mm,
charge at the end of the innings.
mm. That also depends on how the team's set up. If you look at Gujarat Titans and that middle order, you do have, the the issue with their middle order is there's not much experience, one, and uh, even though you have people like Shah Rukh Khan and all who've been around for a while, Rahul Tewatia and all, but then you don't have those very dependable finishers. So their batting depends a lot on the top three, and that's what has happened so far. The top three has delivered. Sai Sudarshan, Joss Butler, Gill. I mean, he hasn't got a big score as yet, a really big one, but then he's had starts as well. So I think if you look at that, I mean, their setup, you can understand why they follow that old template a little more than some of the others like an SRH, or even RCB for that matter.
Picking out players who've done well. I mean, Nicholas
Mm.
Pooran,
Oh.
West Indian, has been extraordinary, hasn't he? I think he's got, well, he's certainly the leading run scorer, 288 runs. He's striking at 225. So he's
Yes.
getting more than 2 runs per ball.
True,
And
and
he's just hitting
yeah,
sixes without even trying, isn't he?
and he's such a great example. I mean, the reason why such a huge fan of Nicholas Pooran, he's not massively built, right?
Yeah.
And he's not a slogger. He bats at three, and he is hit, I believe, in last 2 years in T20 cricket, somewhere around that 210, 211 sixes. The next best is 120s or 130s. That's the difference. So that just tells you, and why I keep reiterating this is about technique. If your if your basic if your basics are right, if you've got a good foundation, you don't have to be this huge muscle guy and spend half your time power or range hitting. You still would do extremely well in this format. And what would also help, and again, Nicky P is a great example of that, how consistent he is because he's technically so good. His scoring areas are very orthodox. You won't see him too many airy-fairy shots. It's very orthodox cricketing shots that he plays, and he plays them so, so very well.
Yeah, it's been great to watch. Actually, funnily enough, talking of sort of people without a big physique, KL Rahul today,
Yes.
superb innings, and we'll talk about that. I actually wrote a piece on my blog yesterday, which is the Crickverse for those who haven't already picked up on it. Cricverse. It's on Substack. I did a piece about Alan Knott, the famous wicketkeeper batsman you would have heard
Mm,
of at least, if not seen,
mm,
who
mm.
played for England. It's still England's leading wicket keeper by dismissals. And
Yeah.
he wasn't a strong guy, and yet he scored runs against all
Yeah.
types of bowling.
Yeah.
Spin, he was brilliant at sweeping the ball. In fact, Graham Gooch admitted that Alan not taught him how to sweep, and he was incredible at sweeping. I
Mm.
fielded it short leg to him, and it was a horrible experience because he swept basically every ball, and I was just ducking out of the way.
Yeah.
But also, he could play the pace bowling. He could uppercut
Yeah.
the pace bowlers. He faced Lillian Thompson in that
Mm,
famous 74-5
mm,
Ashes series, and he was uppercutting them over slips and things like that. So a very versatile batsman. KL Rahul, today, 93 not out. And
yeah.
I thought, he just measured that run chase for Delhi Capital so cleverly.
Yes.
And he's such a kind of versatile batsman, isn't he?
Yeah. Absolutely. And you're so right about, him pacing that innings. And because this was a tricky run chase, 163, the pitch was holding up a little bit. I thought it 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 was a very tactical run chase. You got to pick your bowlers, you got to pick the right moment. For example, he picked on Hazelwood, realizing, Hazelwood does not have a very potent slow delivery. He comes and hits the length. And if you see that over, which went for 22, and
Yeah.
that kind of changed the momentum to a great extent. I mean, look at the shots that he played. He was actually waiting on the back foot because he realized the back of length, which is Hazelwood's go-to length, the ball's sitting up nicely. So he was staying back, waiting for it, and then he got two boundaries of a pull and one of a cut, if I'm not wrong. And the last ball was a six straight down the ground.
Or straight over extra sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wide, mid off. Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, it was such a wonderful and very well paced innings, measured, tactical, picking up, for example, Krunal Pandya, right? Not the other leg spinner, not Suyash, but Krunal. And I thought Tristan Stubbs also did a fabulous job in that partnership along with him. Went run a ball to a certain extent, and then I think that over of Krunal when he hit him for a six or something, got 10 runs of it. So I think the way they chased it, the way they planned that run chase was immaculate.
Mm. I mean, you know, for those of you who are listening to this podcast who sort of hate the IPL or hate the idea of the IPL, I'd have to say, I mean, you know, it is T20, it is
Mhm.
circus, you know, it's cheerleaders and fireworks and, you know,
Yeah.
extravagant. You know, the PA guy was shouting his head off the whole time. You know, it can get a bit tiring, I'd imagine, sat in the crowd if you're not that way inclined. But I mean, there were moments in that game today where you've got two fantastic international opponents. You've got Mitchell
Yeah.
Stark bowling
Yeah.
at Phil Salt and Virat Kohli, and you know, and Phil Salt bunting the
Oh.
fantastic Mitchell Stark back over long on for six with just a sort of short arm jab, and then stepping back and sort of slicing him
Mm.
through backward point. And then later on, as you say, you've got Hazelwood, you know, a
Mm.
fantastic bowler in all formats,
Mm.
being almost toyed with by the skill of KL Rahul getting back and pulling the ball and backing
Yeah.
away outside leg and smiting him over long off. These weren't slogs. They are
No, no.
authentic, you know, just sort of slightly
Yeah.
expansive versions of traditional shots.
And let me just add this. T20 is a very nuanced format. I mean, if you're just watching it for fours and sixes, then good luck. But then it is, I mean, and especially games like these where, 160, middling totals, 160, 170, because obviously the pitch isn't that great to bat on. So you got to pace it, you got to time the whole innings. And talking about Phil Salt, I just wonder if that run out hadn't taken place. I thought that was the biggest turning point of this game, his run out, because he was looking brilliant. He was looking absolutely brilliant. Taking, I think, how many runs did Mitch Stark give? I think
It
six,
was
19 or
22 off
something.
one over, I think, wasn't
Oh
it?
yeah, yeah, it was actually, yeah, 22. I mean, that was some brilliant batting.
Yeah. And the run out, I mean, just for a recap,
Uh,
it looked to me, to me, I'm sorry to say, it looked to me like Kohli's fault. It was one of those
mm,
classics where the batter, and, you know, even at international level or
yeah,
IPL level, you know, they make these kind of basic mistakes. So Salt hit one fairly firmly into the offside, but in a gap, potential gap, and set off for the run. And Kohli set off for the run as well. But you guys did a very good illustration analytical illustration of what happened later in the game, showing that both batsmen were watching the ball, and Kohli, the non-striker, should have just gone. But
yeah,
because he was watching the ball, he
yeah,
stopped. And
yeah.
then Salt he'd come halfway down. He had to stop and turn around. He slipped and
Mhm,
he was run out. I mean, Kohli should, in
mhm,
sort of schoolboy lessons when you're learning about
yeah,
cricket, you're told if the batter hits it in front of square, it's his call. And if he hits it behind the wicket, it's the non-striker's call. Well, that was in front of the wicket. It was Salt's call. And
yeah.
Kohli did the classic thing of yes, no, sorry, didn't he?
Exactly. Yeah, and initially I thought, I mean, he was running for it, and then, like you said, he looked at the ball and the fielder. He did a fabulous job. I think it was Vipraj, the fielder, was him. He did superbly well. But then suddenly, Virat says, "No, thank you, sorry, no, I'm going back to my crease." But then, yeah, I mean, that was a turning point because that first 3 overs, there were 53
Yeah.
without loss in
Yeah.
the first three.
Mm.
And we were looking at each other like, wow, so this looks like a 250, 270 game, yeah.
Yeah, because Bangalore, of course, as well, is a
Yeah.
place where the ball flies
Oh,
for
yeah.
six because of the elevation. I remember
Yeah.
the first ever IPL game, which I was at actually in 2008, and you know McCullum getting that 158 not out with
Yeah.
13 sixes, and the ball was flying to all piles. I thought it was going to be another one like that. But you know, just going back to KL Rahul for a minute,
Yeah.
you know, this is a guy who's opened the batting in Test cricket. He's batted down the order. He keeps wicket. He's batted all over the place. And
Yeah.
the impressive thing I think about him is the way he adapts his game to the
Yeah.
situation. So you interviewed him after the game, and I thought he said some really interesting stuff about his preparation. Is it normal, would you say, for IPL players to practice with that level of meticulousness?
Uh, well, it's not normal, I would like to say, and especially, and that's something that I would like to see more of in terms of, just having different gears and different skill sets, not just, one dimensional and, just kind of all you do is hit fours and sixes because you will come across pitches like that, and that's where you know, players like KL Rahul will always trump over the others. People, someone like a Virat or a KL, Joss Butler is a great example of that. Those guys who have other gears as well are not one-dimensional. So, and I would like to see the youngsters, the next generation, to do more of that rather than just go blindly power hitting or range hitting.
Yeah, because actually, I remember going to a practice session with the Royals a few years
Yeah.
ago when Stokes and Steve Smith actually were playing in the Royals side,
Mm,
and it was like it was a bit like a fireworks display
mm,
at night with these white balls just disappearing into the
yeah.
distance from all directions. But they seemed to be just slogging every ball. And even
Yeah.
Smith actually
Mm,
seemed to be just playing big shots every ball, which I mean, I suppose some batters like to
yeah.
work on their game that way and
Yeah.
get a flow and a rhythm. And I guess KL Rahul said, sometimes he does want to
Yeah.
just do practice the range hitting. But
Mm,
I suppose the point I'm
mm,
trying to explore is, there may be a bit, well, some players
mm.
certainly approach T20 in a more
Yeah.
scientific way, and Rahul
True.
would be one.
Not just that, just to add to that, because I'm sure you've seen enough batters, even in other formats when they're preparing, if the pitch is not that great, they don't bat. If it's a little wet or it's too dry or something, they say, nah, I don't want to bat on this pitch. I'm talking about net sessions here, practice sessions here. And I've seen that as well. And that's where I think even if the pitch is not that great to bat on, I know unless you're not, you're down on confidence, you don't want to further, harm that bit. But if you're batting all right, if your confidence levels are high, I mean, you should bat on every pitch. And I think what Kale mentioned in that interview was so good. And I hope youngsters listening to him and listening to the podcast would actually try and do that. And if the pitch is a little tricky, even if it's a practice session, go and work it out. On this pitch, work out your areas, work out your shots. That might be very different from maybe someone else, right? You might be more, into sweeping the balls rather than hitting down the ground. So work out those options because, yeah, I mean, the amount of cricket that everyone's playing now, you will come across different kind of pitches.
Yeah, well, good advice. We'll take a quick break. Just before we do, just to mention, by the way, that if you join the Substack blog, which I was mentioning earlier, the Crickverse, you can win tickets to the Lord's Test match, England-India in July. There are some free tickets available if you subscribe to the Crickverse, CRICVERSE, and there'll be another piece up there tomorrow. You enter the competition for the draw for pairs of tickets for the Lord's Test match, England against India. Okay, after the break, we're going to talk about Jofra Archer and MS
Mm.
Dhoni. So we'll just carry on.
Yeah.
I suppose two little themes that have cropped up. One is, and this is a classic, really, the official captain of CSK, who's
Mm.
Gaikwad,
Mm.
has got injured.
Yeah.
And so MS Dhoni's taking over captaincy again of the CSK. I mean, you can't make it up,
Yeah.
can you?
You can't. I mean, listen, I mean, it might help them. I mean, they're on a four-match losing streak here. So they would need to bounce back, no two ways about it. And yeah, I think it just worked out all right for them. But they will miss Ruturaj, the batter, if not the captain, the batter, definitely yes. It'll be quite interesting to see how MS manages now. It's been what? It's been a couple of years now. Yeah.
But in fact, he didn't he take over when Jadeja was
Mm.
captain.
Yeah,
Jadeja
halfway.
sort of resigned the captaincy halfway through, and Dhoni took over. And I sort of feel like when I watch them play, he sort of is still captain. He's still
Yeah,
sort of pointing a bit about the fielders
yeah.
and standing behind the wicket, probably having a sly word or two to the batter as well. I mean, he's that influence is everywhere, isn't it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And also if you look at that team, it's set up like an MS Dhoni team. They play MS Dhoni brand of cricket as well. So that's something that I think CSK might want to look at going forward. Not obviously this season, but it's still that MSD template of T20 cricket that CSK is still playing, and it'll only help if he's going to lead the side.
And he's not batting badly either, is he? Because it came in the
No,
other day when they were
yeah,
completely lost cause, and he hit
mm,
about three sixes in 8 balls or
yeah,
something. I mean, he's
yeah.
nearly 44 years old. He's astonishing, isn't he?
He is,
Whatever he
yeah.
has for breakfast, I want some.
Seriously, I mean, it's incredible at this age. I mean, I guess the only reason he wasn't coming up the order to bat was he wasn't too sure about his fitness and him running and stuff like that with his knees and back. But then, yeah, first few games he's come out, he's batted extremely well. And now he's back to batting at number 7. So first few games, I think he came out at number 9 or something.
Man.
But then now he's back to batting at up the order. So yeah, so it'll be quite interesting how he manages that team tomorrow.
Mm. Yeah, because they're playing tomorrow, aren't they? Yeah,
Mhm.
against Kolkata, isn't it? Kolkata, the
Yes, that's
KKR
right.
side,
Yeah.
who also been down the
Mm.
bottom-ish area of the table. And what's it like for a guy like Dhoni? What's his life like? I mean, are people just? Does he have to be surrounded by security all the time? He's such a kind of legend in India, isn't he? I mean,
Oh yeah.
what's it like?
He the other thing is his personal life is quite mysterious because he's not on social media. He's not active. He does his own stuff. Half the time, people don't even know what he's doing. Because obviously he's not playing cricket. But he is he's very athletic in terms of he's very sporty. So he plays other sport. He plays tennis, paddle. He started golf as well. So he's quite sporty that way.
Mm.
Right through the year, he's playing some sport or the other. But yeah, and listen, I mean, the biggest thing about him is he's always been a very, very smart cricketer. So, there are guys who depend a lot on their cricket technique and talent and that side of things. But he's one of those players who depend a lot more on cricket awareness, cricket smartness, more than technique and the other stuff. And so that always remains with you, right? So even now that he's 44, because his cricket or his batting and keeping is based around cricket smartness, is based around general cricketing IQ. So obviously it's only got better with experience and age. It's just that his physically he's still pretty strong, and that's important.
Actually, there was a stumping he did, wasn't there, in an
Oh,
earlier game off Sky, Suryakumar Yadav, well, I think, wasn't it? Who
yes.
momentarily, a nanosecond lifted
Point
his
one.
his
It
foot,
was
and
point
the
one
veils were
second.
off in an absolute flash.
Yeah, incredible. His technique is so incredible. Obviously, he's been known to do that over the years, but again, he hasn't lost that touch with keeping either. And obviously, his technique is very unique. And and while coaching, it gets a little difficult because everyone wants to do that, right? But you've got to be very careful whether to have those things which MS has. I mean, for example, he's got extremely soft hands, uh, and a big hand as well. His palms are massive. They're nice and padded. And they're naturally very soft. One is that. Second is anticipation. I mean, do you have that kind of anticipation to have your hands right behind the ball where it would end up? Those things. I mean, and so yeah, so it can be a little tricky when young kids want to emulate that.
Yeah. Do you know, I mean, it's funny, but you think of him just as a sort of one-day cricketer, really, don't you? But when I was writing the piece about Alan Knott, I looked
Yeah.
up the dismissals in World Test cricket, and Dhoni's number 4. So you've got Mark Boucher actually has more dismissals than anybody in Test cricket, and then you've got the likes of Adam Gilchrist and Ian Healy, and I
Mm.
think Dhoni is 4th on the list, which shows A, how long he played Test cricket, and B, how good he was behind the
Yeah.
stumps. And he was probably playing around the time you were playing, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Just starting.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I mean, he has been going for a long time, but
Oh,
actually
very
he
long.
had this elite ability, through his Test career as well.
Yeah, that's so true. And he never changed his technique, right? Even when he started playing Test match cricket. So I mean, he came in when I was still playing 2005. Uh, and yeah, I mean, within a year, all doors were shut for us because he arrived on the scene. And And that's what I got to give a lot of credit to him. He never ever changed his basic technique, whether it was batting or it was keeping. He still kind of worked on it, fine-tuned it, and fine-tuned it for different formats. But his basic technique, he never, even though, starting off, a lot of people said, oh, he's a slogger, he's not going to survive. I think he ended up playing, what, 91 test matches, which is quite a bit.
Yeah. I heard an interview with him recently, and he talked about, as you said, the fact that he does play a lot of other sports. He said, I like to get up quite late. He said, I like to have a sleep in, and then I go down to the stadium
Yeah,
and either use the gym or play
yeah,
tennis or badminton or whatever.
yeah,
So good way of kind of keeping fit, keeping your eyes going and all that.
yeah,
And actually, I'm sure, as KL Rahul said today, keeping wicket actually
that
helps
helps.
you then how you might bat, especially if you keep wicket in the first innings of the
100%.
match. You can watch how the pitch behaves and how much it spins and the bounce and all that.
Yeah.
I remember Kumar Sangakkara saying, how much it helped keeping to Murali
Yes.
because it made you watch the ball so
Yeah.
carefully, and then you could bring that into your batting.
And also as a keeper, you're taught to pick, especially against spin, taught to pick the variations off the hand and not off the pitch. So you're trained to do that. You practice to do that. So if you look at all the all the wicket keepers, even this generation I'm talking about, they'll be the best to pick up those variations when you're talking about, leg spinners or wrist spinners, left arm and the mystery bowlers. You see the keepers picking up a lot better than the other batters.
Mm. Yeah. So what we'll just put one other player who's risen through the ranks again after a difficult start, Jofra Archer. As I said, I mean,
Mm.
first match 4 overs for 76, but yesterday or the day before was it he bowled out Shubman Gill for about the third or fourth time and since he's played against him, and it was a beautiful little setup with a couple of really fast short balls and then a quick in swinger. Um, Unfortunately, the other Royals bowlers didn't really back him up, but he looks like he's
Mm.
flying well. He's going well again now. After
Mm.
I was slightly worried about him actually a few months ago because I felt he wasn't quite getting that kind of height and awkward lift, and he didn't look as if he was had actually had that much
Yeah.
confidence. But
Yeah.
I don't know. What's your take on Jofra?
I think my take, one is you're right. I think post the injury, his release has come down a little bit. It's not as high as it used to be. I think his left side is dropping a little bit more than what it used to be. But then I think the whole thing changed from that game against, I can't remember, but was in Guwahati. And we were doing this. He bowled an absolutely brilliant first spell. I think he bowled 3 overs in that first spell. And I think what he's found is the right length to bowl,
Mm,
that hard length, that back of length, the right channel as well. And also, I don't think he's trying too many other things. So he's very much in the mold of Hazelwood, who would come and bowl that channel.
yeah.
All right. Uh, he can bowl a Yorker, he can bowl a slower one, but they're not his stronger suit.
Mm,
He's at his best when he's bowling that channel, and I think that he's gone back to that
mm,
in the last few games, bowling that channel and backing his strength rather than trying other things. I know in T20 cricket as a bowler, you want to try different things, slowers and Yorkers and slower bounces, but I think he's backing his strength, which is back of length,
mm,
keep it around that rib cage area.
mm.
And I think and that's made the difference.
Yeah, actually, it's a good point because thing is, I mean, that asset he has is the ability to get the ball up into your neck
Yeah,
area from not
yeah,
very short with
yeah,
apparently not much effort. He just
yeah,
glides to the wicket, doesn't he? And the whole
yeah,
rhythm is so smooth. And once you start mucking around and bowling slower balls, cutters and back of
yeah,
handers and things, batsmen start to sort of read those and almost get ready for those and sort of ignore the quicker ones. As long as you can, almost set yourself for the slower balls
yeah.
because you can capitalize on those. And I think he got the balance a bit wrong, but now he's come back into it. And just one other player quickly to talk about, a big star name who hasn't had that much impact so far, but he's playing in the team which are dominating Gujarat Titans, is Rashid Khan. who,
Mm,
you know, he's part of a good side, but
yeah.
actually this year, I was just looking at his figures: 3 wickets, average 60, and economy rate of 10. So
And
Rashid Khan's effectiveness has been nullified this year so far.
uh, I guess post his injury and his operation and all of that, I think he's still struggling. See, with leggies, and you're well aware of it, the wrist spinners, it's very important how the ball's released, how it's coming out of the hand. And I just get a feeling that feeling is not there right now. It's not coming out of the hand correctly. The other thing was the game in Hyderabad, right, where he bowled decently well. I think he bowled four for some 31, 32. Uh, because I guess his front shoulder was dropping very early. It generally does. His front arm dips very early any which way, but I think it was doing earlier than what it used to be. So he was dragging a lot of those balls halfway down the pitch. And if you look at his spells, you'll see a lot of balls were cut and pulled, which is very rare, right? Rashid does not give you those kind of deliveries. So I guess he's working on that as well, trying to hold on to that left hand a little bit longer. I think his left hand was something like this, but he's trying to kind of get it like that to kind of stabilize the body a little more at the point of release and making sure it doesn't fall a little early. So I think he's working on a few of those things, and well, he's a class act. He is, if not the best, one of the best in this format. I just hope he finds his mojo really soon.
Yeah, I mean, it must be tough because you're under the spotlight so much,
Yeah.
aren't you? And a bowler of that ability, you know, he's even more analysed by the
Yeah.
opposition. So, yeah, it must be tough. What about for you? Just to finish, you know, you've done, I think you said 12 games already. I mean,
Yeah.
how do you kind of realize? How do you organize your life? I mean, do you know where you are on a day-to-day basis? You're
Okay.
in Bangalore today. You know,
That's
what's
right.
your itinerary the next few days, and how do you
Ah.
how do you manage your day?
That's an interesting one. So one, I'm used to this during IPL. I think last year I had taken what, some 34, 35 flights over the 2 months. This time it's a tad bit better. So I'm here today. Tomorrow I'm doing the Chennai game. Then I'm traveling again day after to Jaipur, and then I have a week off for the Easter break. We'll go back home. And yeah, so one is I kind of enjoy this. So I'm not, for example, today I'm not thinking about tomorrow, even though I have got the docket about tomorrow's game, and also I'm not looking at it. So it's about today. Um, and then tomorrow I'm going to take early morning flight, reach Chennai, and that's once I reach there, then I start looking at the numbers and the matchups and everything else. And then yeah, and making sure lead a disciplined life, as in eat properly. That's the major thing. And you know it when you're traveling from one hotel to the other, hotel food and ground food, and it's never easy. So you're gonna try and be as disciplined as possible. I mean, make the right choices in terms of what you're eating, sleep as much as possible. So very rarely you get a proper 7 hour sleep. So it's always like 4 hours, 5 hours, early morning flight. What helps me is I sleep very well on flights, so I don't have that problem. So, for example, tomorrow's flight is a short one and 1 hour, but I'm sure I'm going to take a nap there. So I'm going to reach Chennai and again take a nap for an hour there. So try and catch up on sleep as much as possible. Try and hit the gym. Yeah, just take the right, I mean, make the right calls, not no late nights and stuff like that. Just, yeah,
It's,
be
it's
as
very
disciplined as
very
possible.
very tempting. I know what it's like actually because you know I traveled around with a couple of teams a few years ago, and
Yeah,
I would go into the hotel bar
yeah,
with the players until 3 in the morning, and then they
yeah.
get up at kind of 11, and I was up early, so you just get
Yeah.
exhausted, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, well, good luck to you for that. I mean, at least I suppose with flights, if you fall asleep on a flight, you do wake up and you're not going to miss your stop. Whereas on a train, the trouble is you fall asleep on a train, you do miss your stop. So maybe flying is the answer. But some of those distances, I mean, if you go to Gauhati,
Three
it's like
hours.
miles away, isn't it?
Yeah, so I did a Chennai Guwahati, which is a 3 hour flight. I
Yeah.
I absolutely love them because you get to sleep for 3 hours, so I don't have a problem. I rather take a longer flight than, the short ones, 1 hour long.
And just quickly, how are the crowds at the moment
Hmm.
generally? I mean, Ahmedabad today um, yesterday rather,
Hmm.
was sort of three-quarters full, looked all right.
Yeah.
What about today? I mean, is it still kind of captivating the nation?
Oh yeah, absolutely. No two ways about it. I mean, crowds are still coming in. There are a couple of games because I think a couple of the franchises uh they had changed the ticket prices. They've made it very, very expensive. I think they've reeled it back now. So there were a couple of games that I noticed that, weren't full. Generally, I mean, Ahmedabad, it's very difficult to get it a full house there. It's about 130,000 people.
Yeah.
So it's difficult that way. But generally speaking, again, it's the usual IPL season where everyone's talking about IPL and players and cricket and all of that. Because to be fair, nothing else happens during this time. I mean, there are no movie releases. There is, yeah, I mean,
Is it all
no,
over the
nothing.
papers as well? I mean, do the
Oh yeah,
papers?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so because it's I think we've spoken about this earlier as well. It's become an industry in itself. It's if it's not the cricket, it'll be stories around the IPL in terms of what the television numbers are, or the sponsorship numbers are. The financial pages would have those things. The front pages would have anything that has come up off the field or whatever, and then obviously the sports pages would have the cricket.
Mm. Yeah. Listen, we'll let you go to bed because you're already up past your bedtime. I know. So
Uh,
thank you very much for giving us your insights onto the tournament so far. We'll come back to you in due course. I'm not going to ask you to try and predict who's going to win because it's a total mugs game to try and predict anything in this tournament. But anyway,
yeah,
at the moment there are two teams on 8 points and three on six. So it's pretty close at the top, but there's a fair way to go. Anyway, safe travels to Chennai, and we'll be back talking to you soon. Thanks, Deep, and thanks for listening,
thanks.
everybody.